Get your rub on with Addicted to the Q.
Hello, everyone. Tonight we are going to have on Travis Duffy with Last Call Heroes. Everybody, hang on a second while I'm going to try and get him on the call. For some reason, Travis is not letting me add you. Every time I say send invite, it says unable to add. What's going on, Paul? What's going on, Josh? Now it's not even giving me the option to add. It still says for some reason I can't add you, Travis. I don't know. I got your invite and I hit accept and it didn't. His phone. No, it's the other way around. I can't be through your computer. Still got the error message. I don't know.
All
There we
right.
are.
There we go.
Sorry about the technical difficulties.
Nah, it's all right. You know how it goes.
How are you doing tonight?
Oh, we're hanging there.
Sorry about getting you on a Wednesday. I just didn't want to take up your competition weekend.
Oh, we're we got a little time off here, so it's all right.
There's always kind of a lull after the jack, isn't there? Until
Yeah, for us, we're probably going to be done for the season. We got a couple issues with the trailer and things that need to be addressed. So after we got through the jack, we're probably done cooking for the season, other than our class that's coming up in December.
Yep. So if you're ready to get started, I'm ready when you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get mine to the right page. So introduce yourself and tell us your team name.
Sure. I'm Travis Duffy. I'm the head cook for Last Call Heroes barbecue team out of South Dakota.
So where'd you get the name from?
So we got started back in 2012. There was a group of my buddies. Most of them are military or veterans that have served or are. And the name just got kicked around and kind of got made through them one night, just hanging out, drinking, probably too much.
No, that's pretty cool name. I was kind of wondering where it came from.
Yeah, it's kind of probably has. When it got thought up, it probably didn't have as many meetings we thought. It's initially its meeting was on the last call is the last call is at 2 a.m. But obviously over time it probably has different meanings of the last call at a contest is the one you want, which is grand champion, and just between that and the whole military theme and everything, it's kind of the whole meaning behind it now. Gotcha.
So do you have any teammates or do you cook alone?
Yeah, we do. We cook. I cook more than most people probably can take off and spend time doing. So I have quite a few people kind of fill in between my girlfriend, Emily, one of the primary ones. Then a lot of the pictures you'll see Keegan from the American Royal. Keegan goes to a few of them with me. And then also that Brian Anglin's been cooking a little bit with us this year, and he'll probably continue to be involved with us going forward some more also.
Now you're from South Dakota, right?
Yep.
You cook majority Kansas City, Missouri, or do you cook more Montana, like South Dakota, that area, or just kind of depends?
I don't really have a limit to where I won't go, other than how much I'll tolerate driving and fuel prices right now. But ultimately, our primary region is probably from, there's nothing in North Dakota right now, but if there ever was, we'd cook it. Probably the North Dakota-Canada border to the Texas-Oklahoma border, and anything to the left and right of it on the map is probably our target number one. I love cooking, obviously, all of our South Dakota contests. I love cooking in Nebraska. I love cooking in Iowa. I love cooking the Rocky Mountain region, and I've had a lot of success in Kansas. So I love bouncing down to the Kansas, Missouri region. Every time I've been down to Oklahoma, I've had a blast. I'd love to get down there and cook more. That's my target bread and butter area for sure.
So what do you do when you're not cooking barbecue? Because I notice it takes a lot of time off on like Thursdays and Fridays to do competitions.
Sure. Presently, I am a systems administrator for the IT outlet in Brandon, South Dakota, the nerds you love to know.
Seems like there's a lot of barbecue people that got into IT. I don't know why, but it's like a common theme for.
I think it's probably the other way around. I think it's a bunch of IT nerds that got into cooking barbecue for something to do on the weekends, and our girlfriends/wives probably got sick and tired of us sitting around doing jack shit, working on everything, and made us get a hobby. It's probably how a lot of it started, but it probably were the exact answer to that is probably the fact that we're detail-oriented people, or that's how we're trained and we're wired to be in the world of tech and all that. As a sys engineer, there's not much that you can do without having a vast skill set and knowledge of everything that it ties to and how everything works. So I think it's just maybe our mindset allows us to develop programs that work well in barbecue. I don't know. Maybe I'm just thinking. Maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree too. I don't know.
No, that makes sense. Little did they know how much it was going to cost for them to start that hobby on something to do on the weekends.
Yeah, I think it's when we all get into it, we probably expect that there is a level of expense that we're going to incur, but we probably all maybe underestimated what that would be. But yeah, it's about like every hobby. It takes some resources, all right, to make it go.
Yes, it does. So, what's one thing you love most about competition barbecue?
Probably there's probably a split between the competitive aspect to it and the challenge of it, and then the social aspect of it. Obviously, one of the reasons that we do as much preparation as we possibly can do throughout the week is we have a lot of friends at the contest that we, don't get to spend a ton of time with, and a lot of that time is at contests. So we like to be able to maximize the time we have with friends. So that's one of the reasons that we work towards being good at preparation throughout the week. And of course, then the other is the competitive aspect of it, is making sure that we're doing everything that we possibly can within the confines of the rules before a contest to give ourselves every advantage we can to try to win the contest.
Yeah, I've never tried to trim meat at a contest, but I can't imagine. I'd much rather do it in my kitchen in AC and comfort than under a 10x10 easy up, or even a trailer is probably still not ideal when you have a kitchen with a dishwasher and a sink versus trying to do it all in a contest.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think I know the answer to this question, but what is the biggest competition you have done?
Well, that's probably going to be tough to even answer myself. Obviously, before this last weekend, it'd be pretty easy just to say the 3 American Royals in my career that I've cooked. All 3 of them are pretty special to me. Prior to, I guess we cooked 4 American Royals now, I get that right. But this year we didn't have as much success with the Royals, so of course we were looking to get to the Jack to see if we could maybe find some success somewhere else. But yeah, I mean, winning the American Royal was huge. Prior to doing that, we reserved it. I don't know if that's been done by others. Obviously, this a cook was able to win both days of the American Royal for the first time. So I don't know, even reserving it one time and getting next is even as cool as it was at one time. But either way, we've found some magic at Kansas Speedway over the years that maybe expired on us this year, but it's been pretty special to us over the years for sure. But I can't sit here and say that the Jack or the Royal is one or the other's more special than the other, because they're both special in their own ways. They both deserve their own platform, if you will, their own leg to stand on within barbecue, just like Memphis in May. They're all equally unique, and they all have their own attitudes and different dynamics that I embrace about all of them. And maybe someday I'll even have an opportunity to go and, maybe go cook with a team at Memphis in May and experience the dynamic of that also. But yeah, I was very, it was very, very appreciative to have the opportunity to go and cook the Jack Daniel's Invitational last weekend. Regardless if we ever even was to have any success there at all, just to be able to pull my barbecue trailer onto the grounds of that sacred place and light a fire in my pit and cook for their judges and their contest is huge. It was something that I basically wrote off that I would never really get the opportunity to do, because I'm not the style of cook to really target jack draws. I still am not truly a full-time cook. Really, I try to get to about 20 to 25 a year. This year, I think I got to maybe 17 or 18. So in a lot of times it's time, and it's not always budget limited. Sometimes it's time limited and other stuff, but it's what I'm able to do And a lot of times the contests I'm able to cook would not make any sense for anybody chasing jack draws by any means. But for me, I just like to get out and cook, and I want to win. So that's what I focus on first and foremost. So it's really tough to maximize my state jack draws and things of that nature when I'm not doing that. But all I can do is cook the best I can and play the game like everybody else does. And if I get lucky enough to snag a state draw again, or not again, and I got lucky and snagged an auto from the Royal, but if I get
You got
lucky
the
enough
Royal draw,
to get
didn't
a
you?
state draw, yeah, I'll gladly take it. I've been cooking competition barbecue, I think around 9 years now, and I have not gotten a state draw yet, but that's not to say it can't happen. So we'll see what happens. And, if we ever get fortunate enough to go back to the jack again, we'll come back there with the same fire we did this year to try to walk the stage again for sure.
Because I've heard of some teams that will literally go to the one contest in that state to try to win it to get the jack draw.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I played that game once this year at a contest, and there was a rumor, and we don't know if it will actually hold up that way. But I cooked a contest this year that I was not going to cook, that I kind of got. I convinced myself that I should go do to see if I could maybe snag a draw or, for this next coming year. And yeah, I think I'd been cooking probably 5 weekends in a row. And I had a bunch of my supplies depleted behind at work and everything else. And, we went to that contest, and I think we ended up still getting like 8th or 9th, but I don't know. We probably had no business even going there because it didn't really have a good game plan. My girlfriend was on vacation. I basically almost cooked it solo. One of my good buddies came and ran my boxes. We survived it, but I don't know. You had to go try because, I just learned how special the jack was. So I'm glad I went and cooked it and tried to get into it. But I don't play that game very well for some reason. My cook style, my program, I don't know. It's not geared to do that, I guess, or would have to change it to do that. I don't know, but I'll just keep taking my chances, I guess, and hopefully we'll get a draw again.
I did see pictures from the holler. It looks amazing to be able to even see the view from being able to cook it would be.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's it's kind of surrounded by trees and everything, and it kind of almost reminds me. Obviously, it's a different tree and a different landscape, but when we cook in the Black Hills of South Dakota at Hill City Wine Brew and Barbecue, you're kind of in. It's they don't really call them a hollow; they're more of a meadow or kind of a draw. The town is kind of surrounded by a backdrop of trees and everything, and it's just a real cool landscape around you. And the jack is really similar in that the drive to there, past Nashville and kind of back into the country of Tennessee through there. It's a great drive and a beautiful country, and cooking through the holler there, it was great.
So, here's my next question. Tell us about winning the American Royal and what was that experience like?
Sure. So yeah, it was kind of a interesting day. We went into the American Royal last year, and I felt we had done a really good job throughout the whole season of cooking throughout the. I think it's everybody's goal, or at least mine. At least you start a season off and knowing that all of these big shows are towards the end of the season, so you got a full year to put together your program that you're going to go and try to swing for the fence at majors to see if you can't bring home some hardware. And I kind of pride myself in being consistent about anywhere I can go in the country and cook. I just feel that that's what I want to, whether even if I don't win, no matter where I go, I like to get solid podium finishes. And if throughout this year even we were able to do that, but I like to be able to go and show that I can cook in Denver at 5,500 feet elevation and still do well, and then drop to 3,700 feet, going to like Worland, Wyoming and cooking there and bouncing to Hill City back to 5,500 and then to Omaha back down to 1,200 and, and all over the place. And to the point of even at the holler at the Jack Daniels where it's 625 feet of sea level. And through that whole time, you're cooking in different weathers and climates and humidities, and you're getting every different type of condition you can think of thrown at you. And I love that because I learn and I become a better cook the more things I can cook in. So throughout a whole season, that's basically what I'm doing is I'm just checking boxes, making sure, can I cook in this? Can I cook in that? What if I do this? What if I do that? Which direction's the wind from? Have I cooked that way before? Just trying to put as many variables as possible. So then when you get to Tennessee and you're at 625 feet elevation and you can almost hardly ever cook at that, and you got different humidities and temperatures and dynamics in that, and you can throw together something that will work, and get you what you want. And some people might be wondering what the hell I'm talking about right now, but I feel that I can control my coloring and my texture if I can make tweaks to how I cook, how I run my fire, and what I do based upon the climate I'm in.
Makes complete sense to me.
Yeah, I'm big on that, and I've had conversations with other cooks who will turn around and tell me in the process of explaining all the weird things theories and things I have. I've had people turn around and tell me, well, you cook barbecue till it's done. And while they are 100% correct, from an engineering mindset, I can't just have that as an answer. I also have a hard time accepting a lot of things that happen. I got to know why things happen. If I have an issue with my cook, if something don't go the way I want it to go, just chalking it up as a bad day doesn't work for me. I have to know why and what happened. So I dissect the hell out of everything, probably more than I should. But I mean, at the end of the day, I feel that it probably helps me in some way, shape, or form. So I keep doing it.
Nope, I completely. Because I always say, and I forgot who, I think it was Darren Worth one time on a podcast, said, I pray for rain, I pray for adversity because I know how to overcome it. Some of these other cooks that run the same timeline, same thing week after week, if something derails their cook, they don't know how to get it back on track.
100%. My most hated contest is a sunny day, 70 degrees and no wind. I hate that. Everybody's going to cook good. And I'm not saying that to sit around here and say that I need people to cook shitty to win. I'm just saying that if we throw some more dynamics into it, I'm the same way. I feel confident that I can work through adversity and things of that nature better than the others for this, the same thing. And obviously Darren has cooked for so many years. He can even do it better than I can. But, even where I'm at, I feel that probably a large portion of a lot of fields, if you get a 30-mile-an-hour crosswind or something like that going on, it doesn't bother me one bit because I've cooked in it so much. I'm going to do, I can overcome it in no time.
So, how heavy is the American Royal Crown? My buddy Brian wanted that question.
So the American Royal Crown, unfortunately, is made of plastic and weighs ounces.
Oh, really?
Yes. Now the trophy, on the other hand, weighs a ton. But while the crown is not really that cool, I shouldn't say this right. The gown or whatever they give you, that is really cool.
So I still remember seeing pictures from when you won. You looked shell shocked for a long time afterwards. I can only imagine.
Yeah, it was obviously a surprise. The big surprise about it was the sheer fact that we got 3 calls in the Open. In 2019 when we were at the Royal, we reserved it with a port call. And in 2018, we were 11th overall in the Open with no calls at all. So, a lot of times when there's obviously a few of the cooks over the years that have gotten 3 calls in one, and I think Lane might have, and Darren maybe has. It's not that it doesn't happen. I think even this year, both days was 3 or 4 calls. So it's not that it doesn't happen, but a lot of times the Royal Open can be one with no calls or 1 call. So to have 3, and even with the 3 that I had, I wasn't confident still that I had won it, because you can get 3 calls at the Royal and totally get shit bombed in a category and not win it too. So I wasn't going to sit there and thinking I had it in the bag either. But yeah, the biggest surprise was the fact that we got 3 calls in the Open, and probably the biggest surprise of it was the day before, and it probably shouldn't be of any surprise anymore. But I always get my ass kicked in the Invitational, and I don't know why. I turn in really good stuff, and they always hate it. So I've come to the conclusion that we just need to live with that. Go down there and just cook it and move on to the Open. But that's where we usually do pretty good. But I obviously I can't live with that, and we'll be working on trying to figure out how to score in the Invitational too. But if we don't, I've learned not to let. When you walk away from the Invitational, I think one of the things that can get a person, and maybe some of the reason that we reserved it or did as well as we did in 2019 is, in 2019 when we reserved it, I did not cook the Invitational because we were not an Invitational team. We just as a matter of fact, I reserved a contest the last weekend I could get into the Royal. I felt dejected. I was kind of sitting there, and my girlfriend actually said, well, you can just sign up and go cook the Open. And I sat there for about 5 minutes. I'm like, fuck it, that's what we're going to go do. So I did it. We went there and reserved it. So I know that you can, but the one thing when you don't cook the Invitational is you don't have anything in your head from the contest before or the results before. One of the things of winning the Open when you're doing both is overcoming the bullshit from the day one. It's not easy a lot of times to do that from a mental approach, especially in 2021. I'm not going to lie. I left that track pissed off when I went to my hotel, and I almost probably didn't get myself in a mental place the next day again to go win that thing. But I was able to get a little bit of sleep. I woke up in the morning and I really had to tell myself to forget about the day before and just go do what we do, because that's when we usually have our best, success. Where most of the time when I cook a double, we're day 2 cooks. We do better the second day than the first for whatever reason. I don't know if it's because others are wore out and we just keep it going. We've always been consistency cooks, stamina teams. We push through. That's just what we do. I don't know if that's part of it or what, but you got to get through that and just get a different mindset when that happens to you. And maybe we're just better at that than other people. I don't know, but we have a history of being better on day 2.
I judge the Royal. I've judged it 3 times now. I can't even describe why, and it's such a crapshoot. Like, there's so many judges that they love the food but gave it a 7, and I'm like, what? Why? Well, it didn't stand out. Well, I have my own battles with the Royal. It's a love-hate relationship with judging the Royal.
Yeah, 100%. You got to know, as cooks, we know going into it that we're going to have that dynamic, and we're all up against the same dynamic of it. The funny thing is we can all, after a contest, sit around and go, well, if this wouldn't have bombed and this wouldn't have bombed, I'd have won the contest. Well, guess what? The guy who won the contest, his shit didn't bomb. It's just the way it went. I've obviously been on both sides of it, and one side is good, one side of it sucks. But at the end of the day, there's a winner, and we're all losers, and we go home. I can look at it this year that the American Royal for 2022 for us, it went this way. We scored a 688 on the Invitational with I think we got a 60th place, and we were a 689 in the Open for a 61st. We can't bitch about it. For as many teams that was there, am I happy about it? Absolutely not. It's not what I wanted. I look at the score sheet, and we were scoring 172 to 175 and in 3 of the categories, and they just drilled our ribs both. Why they did that, I have no clue. I cooked both those contests. I loved all of my entries I turned in. I hit every mark I wanted. I got 2 cooks at the American Royal that I worked all year to put together, and they did exactly what I wanted. And it didn't go together for whatever reason. And I had to walk away from that and accept that. It basically, I had about a 165 in ribs both days, and then those, 172s to 175s in the other categories, and that's where it got you. And I can tell you that if you want to win the American Royal, you need to be scored 175 to 180 in all 4 categories.
Yep. No, I've learned to look at my scores for about 5 minutes after the contest and throw them in the passenger seat on the way home and not look at them again.
Yep. Yeah, well,
the first contest I did, I analyzed, and it almost made it worse than if I just get it, move on. I mean,
yeah, to be 100% honest, saying the last 7, 8, 9 contests now, I honestly, I've not really looked that much attention to my score sheet, other than in just areas where I've been targeting, where I want to, just little things that I've been working on prior to these big shows. And one of that was I made a change to it was a small tweak to my brisket, back in late July, early August in there. And I've been cooking what I thought was some really good brisket. And it wasn't that it wasn't scoring, but it just wasn't hitting that hard. So I had to make a decision what I wanted to do there. But, we've just been keeping with it. So I've been kind of looking at what that's been trending. And I haven't really been finding much trends on it either. And that's why it's been tough. It seems like there's really been inconsistencies lately more than in the past for whatever reason. But, so I was flying a little blind there going into the majors. I've actually hit a first place brisket the weekend or 2 before the Royal and decided to just stay with it. My brisket scored really well through the Royal. So I'm pretty confident in that change still. But yeah, for whatever reason, the Royal wasn't for us this year, but that's all right. I'd love to meet the guy that won it. I've been hearing lots of stories about him and kind of his life outside of competition barbecue as a chef and everything. So that's pretty cool. It's kind of sounds like he kind of comes from a lot of the lines of Tuffy Stone stuff, things of that nature. So it surely doesn't surprise me that he was able to do what he did, because usually it's those types of skill sets that rise to the top pretty fast.
Well, that's what you're talking about, the Royal being such a crapshoot as far as getting calls. That I remember listening at home and open whenever Slaps and the barbecue bus got called. I was like, who the heck's gonna win this thing? Because I thought for sure one of those two were gonna take it. And it's just weird how you can not get as many calls, but if you tank one category, you're just done. It just
it really does. And then there's the whole dynamic, because when you start at the Royal, you start getting through the top 10, and you start hearing names that have had no calls. So at the Royal, I've just kind of given up even trying to decide or to think who can win, because you could sit there and think it's somebody, and then all of a sudden they just call a completely different name. And when we reserved it in 2019, was it? Yeah, 2019. I mean, that was a complete shock. I mean, I had zero. I mean, when I won the Royal, I had we had 3 calls in the open. I mean, we obviously knew that we had a pretty damn good shot, but they're calling up through the results of the open in 2019. And I had already written myself off, by 10th, and so we're sitting there just trying to figure out, maybe, who maybe might still be in the game. And they called us for reserve, and you get to the score sheet, and yep, we only had a 1 port call, but the other 3 weren't too far away, and it's kind of how you look at it this year on the coulda, woulda, shouldas, is if both days, if those rib scores weren't 125th or whatever they turned out, would have been 50, 60th place, sure, we would have been a no call, no category call, weak overall call, but it would have been cool. But oh well, wasn't our year.
coulda, woulda, shoulda. I mean, it just
Yeah.
How the chips fall sometimes.
Yeah.
So, what got you started in competition barbecue?
Um, we were just cooking barbecue at home, for our holidays, mostly ribs, some pulled pork. And there was a local rib cook-off that one of my friends that helped us come up with the name wanted us to go and cook, and I agreed to do it, and we borrowed a bunch of equipment because all I owned at the time was one pellet cooker and a Weber Smoky Mountain, and it was some charity cook where you had to cook like 15 racks of ribs, and then you turned in some blind, and we ended up winning it. And then we just kept trying to find some of those little contests to do. And we'd find them here and there, but back, around here in South Dakota back in 2013, 2012, and there wasn't a ton of backyard, not even close to what there is today. So we got to the point where we wanted to do it more than the little rib cooks would allow us to do. So our only really option was to jump into KCBS. So we did. And we kind of, it was way different game back in 2014 than it is today. I don't know that if we entered KCBS the way we did back then now that we would have any success at all. But, I didn't never take a class or anything. I only knew what I've read on Facebook and the forums and whatnot on what to turn in and do. In 2014, we went to South Dakota Barbecue Championships in Huron for our first contest. And we had a 3-call day and ended up getting, I think, 4th or 5th, I forget, on our first contest, which is unheard of. But we ended up, then I cooked again in about a month, and we followed up with like a 7th or an 8th. My first year, I think we cooked 5 or 6 contests, and we ended up with top 10s in all but one of them. So it was a pretty crazy start to our career. And then I think we cooked 1 or 2 more years, doing about the same amount. And then we decided to take it a little more serious, started taking classes. And then that's when everything changed. And we really started to get, moving forward. It's not that we were doing bad before, but we were just kind of the bottom of the top 10, and, we'd have a few mistakes and get ourselves out once in a while, and just needed to, when we started taking classes is when we started really realizing what we needed to develop to win.
Jordan says, "Thanks, Duff. I need a private class."
Well, we could probably help each other out because, Jordan had informed us all of how his team name came about at the Jack, which happened to be a busted leg on a smoker, and it just so happens that my smoker has some broken parts on it right now, so we could probably do some trading.
Don't you guys cook on the same kind of cooker? I'm going to ask that question later.
We do.
So I'll go ahead and ask it. What kind of cooker do you cook on?
I got an Outlaw. Mine's the 2660. My one, it's the original. Mine's one of the OGs, probably number 7 or 8 built. So old, it's before Jay even started welding a number or putting a serial number on them, so we don't really even know what one it is. It's one of the OGs, like Gray Street cooked on 1 or 2 of those. I had one. My buddy Kevin Huber of Sin Circle Barbecue has one. It's one of the first 10. And I don't know how many of those still exist, but yeah, it's pretty cool. It's got some work that's got to get done on it now, but we'll have her back and rocking and rolling here real quick.
Don't you have a drum too? I thought I saw.
Yeah, and to the contest also, mainly for setting some sauce, and if we need to throw some charcoal flavor on something quick, it's just ready and rock and roll. We brought a drum along to the Jack. We cooked our wings on that just for the fact that it wouldn't interfere with the normal program. We could just keep doing what we needed to and just keep the wings over. other pit, and would not have any effect on anything else.
Is that a gateway or is it a different kind
Yeah.
of drum?
Yeah, we do gateways.
Well, that's my next question. What smokers do you cook on? Do you have one at home that's different than what you cook on for competition, or?
Yeah, I have my what I use at home is I got a Yoder 640 that is my main what I mess around with at home. I also, when I started cooking competition barbecue, I started on a Yoder YS 1500, and then I had that Yoder 640. That was back in the day when we first started. We were still kind of more of a low and slow, and then that got moved. We moved from that to we did go to hot and fast, and then we were bringing 2 drums in that Yoder 1500. We were basically putting flavor on stuff on the cans and moving it to the pellet cooker when we were wrapping. It worked pretty good. We went from that to this offset when we got a porch trailer. And it's pretty much where I see myself. I don't really see myself wanting, when you change pits, then you got to figure out the attitude of a new pit. And I don't really want to mess with that anymore. Being I got a pit now that I know as well as I do, I hope I don't have to ever cook on anything different.
So you use, I saw you use the good charcoal. How is that? I've seen it different places. I've never tried it.
It burns so hot and clean that we actually burn the bottom out of charcoal baskets.
Okay.
I burnt up a Rob Wynn heavy duty charcoal basket in 9 contests with that charcoal.
That
Now,
might answer my question.
yeah. Now I'm going to say
Away from
benefit. I love the fact that it cooks that hot and clean because it allows basically for more margin of error. I like to run my pit on a little bit of pecan, but I run it on mostly charcoal. Once we get going, we'll run some splits at the beginning, get some good wood flavor on the big meats and stuff. But beyond that, then we're mostly charcoal. So it allows me to run a pit that is hot and clean, puts good color on stuff, and I can just then supplement the wood I need for whatever I want for color and a texture, thing of that nature that I want to make on the fly. It just, to me, it allows clean, hot charcoal like that allows for more versatility.
I could see that. So, what advice do you have for any up-and-coming barbecue cooks wanting to get into competition barbecue?
Sure. Probably the best advice I'd have right now, especially with the current climate, for as expensive as everything is, given the briskets and all that, is a few years ago, I probably wouldn't have said it this way. I probably would have said the approach that I took to barbecue is not going to work this day and age anymore. And, I didn't take a class till like the 3rd year that I competed. If I look at that now and look at like going 3 years of not having data like that and these expenses, I can't imagine the amount of money I would lose cooking. A $650 to $1,000 class right now is a value that you can't not take up. Now I'm not going to sit here and say take my class. I'm going to tell you to take a class, take a good one. I don't care if it's mine or if it's Brad's or whose it is. Go take a class. You will get that $650 back. And not taking a class, you will spend $650 somewhere else a lot faster. I promise you. Classes right now are huge. I mean, just eliminating one, the barrier in learning something that could help you advance your program might make you $1,000 versus cost you that, so take that into consideration this off season. We're in some pretty expensive times. Utilize classes and shorten your learning curve. It will save you money.
When I did my master judging to cook with it before I got into competing myself, I cooked with Eric Burkhart, Uncle Bub, and I thought competition barbecue, I thought I knew it all about competition barbecue, and then there was so much fine details that you don't even think about until you take a class that has that, and you're like, it just blows your mind because you think you just throw some meat on the grill at home like you do at home and pull it off and put it in the box, and that's how you win. And it's definitely not like that.
No, not where everything is today and the level of cooks that we have in KCS right now. It's a whole different game. It takes a different level of attention to detail and preparation than it used to. Some people don't like that. I'm one that does. I'm a very competitive person, and I'm always a person to rise to a challenge. I love that there is a difficulty to KCBS. I thrive off of it. It's while I say that, it's still expensive, and I wish it was cheaper, but I don't really know what we can do right now to make that any better. So we just got to deal with what we can and roll with the punches and hope we can get through it and go from there.
Yeah, there was a guy on Facebook. It's his first contest, and he's like, I turned in incredible food and was mad that he lost. And I said, everyone there thinks they turned in incredible food. I mean, you don't go into it thinking you're going to get last place and lose. I mean, everybody kind of has that same mindset.
Yeah, and a lot of it, especially any of us that do this probably all have a competitive part to us, and then there's some of us that are like a few of us that were probably considered more on the ultra competitive side, that where we maybe take it a little. Some people say we take it too far, and it comes down to, I'm not going to sit here and make excuses, but it's part of the science behind learning to lose is the fact that we spend an entire week working on preparing towards winning. So we know that if we're going to go to a contest and have a chance to win, we have to have the attitude that when we drive in, we've already won it. We just have to do the work. We are that confident in our program. We've already won it. There's nobody that can beat us. And that's, what we got. We're just going through the motions, and we're checking boxes, and that's what we're going to do. But the reality is there's only one winner, but we spend the whole week with that. And then you trim your meat, and you go through the process. You get to the point where you head to the contest, and you at that point have most of the time stuff that you feel good enough about to at least leave your house with, whether you want to tell people it's shitty or good or not. You obviously have stuff that you are going to cook a contest with good enough, so you have some confidence in it. You go through your cook, you hit all your marks, you shut 4 boxes, and you're confident, and you go to awards, and it's going to go a few different ways. But if it goes totally south, I mean, yeah, you just had a whole week of adrenaline buildup, or whatever you want to call it, of trying to get yourself in this super competitive mindset where, you're trying to win a contest and then it doesn't go your way. That is a dopamine dump the other direction. Some people don't handle it as well as others. And it's, that's where you get people that have different opinions of what it is versus reality. And I say that as somebody who's been in that position just as many times as everybody else has, and is still learning himself. But that's the reality of it, is when it all comes down after it don't go your way, we all have a way to handle it. And sometimes we suck at it, and sometimes we handle it better than others. But yeah, that's just part of it.
Lane, my meat's always shit.
Of course.
Any tips or tricks you would be willing to share, whether it's any kind of barbecue tips or tricks?
Yeah, I just don't know what a tip and a trick is. Like, I don't know. Like,
without giving away all the secrets.
I mean, I don't even care what I give away. I just honestly don't know what. Like, there's a million things. If you give me a topic, narrow it down. I mean, we're at 20,000 feet right now. Can we get to 5?
Use Blues Hog barbecue sauce. There's a good tip.
Well, simple. That's too simple. We all know that.
That's funny because there's so many judges that say they can't stand Blues Hog barbecue sauce, and I
Well,
think, oh crap.
they get 9.9% of the entries, and they're still writing nines down. So whether they like it or not, they still writing nines. Will still be using it.
That's what took me a while. And some people buy into this, some people don't. That, and even my wife will be like, "Well, I like it like this," and I had to finally tell her, I'm like, "No offense, I don't really care what you like for barbecue. I care what the judges like. So if the judges like a certain thing, that's what everybody's going to give them because that's what wins."
Yeah, I mean, I guess that now that you got us on a topic, I suppose I can give a piece of advice now that we're on that, which is probably a pretty good one, and it's on that thing there. It's the whole non-offensive thing. Is we're looking for a balanced flavor and a good texture. Texture wins contests. We don't worry about flavors until you get that right. If you don't have that right, it don't matter. But if you do have that right, do a good job of finishing it. Taste it. And kind of funny at the Jack, we only had 7 slices to put left in the box. It wasn't that we didn't only have 7 good slices. We fucked with it a lot and tasted a lot of brisket to get it the way I wanted it. And it was like, shit, okay, stop eating. And, but I wanted to get it just right. And I probably went a little aggressive. It didn't matter anyway. They fucking hated it. But, I was kind of that thing of I wanted to make sure that I had what I felt given the climate they had, the temperature was out. I wanted to make sure I had the saltiness right on my brisket. And I felt if it was a KCBS contest and maybe not the dynamic we had at the Jack, it should have really scored well. But oh well. But it's one of those things. Just finish it right, and really make sure you're hitting all the flavor notes you want properly, because you can change it at the last minute before you shut the box.
That's what I still need to learn, big time. Is how to, when I take it out to present it, what I can do to fix it.
Yep.
And that's Ryan Kane, who took your class. That's one thing he's always said. He said, even the amount of finishing powder I will put on depends on what it tastes like and what it needs.
Yeah.
And I for some reason, I will turn in the box and my wife will be like, "How were the ribs?" I said, "I didn't even taste one." I don't know if I just get in that mindset where I just want to get it cooked, turned in, and all that, and that's one thing I need to work on, is being able to adjust on the fly.
Yeah. My favorite finished powder is table salt.
Really?
Yep.
It just doesn't need anything extra besides just salt.
Nah, if you're to that point, you're probably all you need is salt.
So do you carry a different thing of finishing powders based on what it needs, or how do you?
My normal rubs ground to a fine powder to have at my on the table there. But if I'm adding that, it's not that I'm trying to accent flavor. It's like, prime example, if I have maybe steamed a little seasoning off more of my ribs than I want to or anything else, I'm going to use that to just put seasoning back on meat before I do anything. Very seldomly am I going to really hammer the end product with it, but I'm not saying I won't. I mean, if I'm going to taste it and I feel that's what it needs, I will. But most of the time, if I've done my job, that's getting put on right before I just put some sauce on it, maybe a little bit into the sauce, and then I'll do whatever, whatever it may be. And then, I mean, I'm going to put some finished rub down on my brisket, but I'm also going to just fucking pound it with salt.
And I feel like even as a judge that I've never gotten something that's been too salty.
No, I mean, when I say that, we're going to put it on the slice, and then it's going to be mixed in with some au jus and put on there and put in a box, and probably have a little bit of sauce put over it before it's finally shut, which is going to take some of the salinity away from it. I'm actually kind of looking to overshoot my salinity a little bit so I can not lose too much of it when I come back with just a little bit of sauce to keep it nice and shiny before I shut the box. And there's probably a better way of doing it than the hillbilly ass way of that, but it works for me.
I like the hillbilly approach.
Yeah, sometimes it's just the best way to do it.
So let's see. Do you like a spicy or sweet flavor profile?
Can I say neither? I can't say that either I would like. If I am looking to balance something out, I want it to probably start with some sweet and roll into some of the savories lightly, and then any heat would be very light, and then I want it to finish with just a salt pop like a potato chip. I'm going to be more sweet and salty than I'm going to be sweet heat.
I've had some like at the Royal where I don't know if it was pepper or what it was, but it was so. I mean, it blew out my taste buds. Like it was nothing but heat.
Yeah, I don't want anything like that. I mean, that's just over. And whoever that was should have known better. I mean, whatever flavor you give to the judge tent, whatever it is, it should almost be so subtle you almost can't taste it. The things that make a judge write a 9 down are the things that are so subtle. They're like that they're asking themselves what it is in the background, and they're almost wanting another bite to find out what it is. Now they're not going to take another bite because they're going to get full. They're just fuck it and write a 9 down. That's all you need to do to get one. Anything beyond that, you're just fucking yourself.
And that's what in pork, I told one of the judges beside me, I said, I've never judged pork so easy this year. I literally could put it in my mouth, and the moment it was there, I knew what I was going to give it. I didn't need to chew it, second bite, roll it around. I mean, and that's what really need.
The ones that are giving you 9s know it's a 9 within a half a second sticking in their mouth. They got it figured out by then, and it's all because of the texture and the fact that the salinity hits their tongue and it goes and it's a mind game.
Yep, that is. So, do you cook thighs or legs for competition?
I'm still doing thighs.
Do you scrape skin?
Now I do take my knife, and if there's any gobs of fat, I clean it up because I don't want that on there. I only cook 8 pieces of chicken, so I do I guess I feel I do a good enough job trimming my chicken. I don't need 16 pieces, so I just cook 8. The way I cook chicken, I need the fat on the bottom of my skin to keep it from blowing my skin out. Otherwise, if I don't have enough fat, it will do that. So I leave it all on there other than just big chunks.
Do you size them up before you bring them to the contest then to get your 8 to make sure that they're about the same size? That way you don't have to pick between them at the contest? Or?
Yeah, I have them all weighed. I mean, I bring only the 8 I'm going to cook. They're all weighed out. I'm looking for I don't have a specific weight other than I'm going to be in the 4 ounce per thigh range. And then I'll usually trim 2, 3, 4, see where they're trimming out at, look for an average, and that's where I'm going to try to shoot for.
That's interesting. I've never heard of somebody only cooking 8 thighs.
I've been doing it for like 3 years now. I love it. The chicken don't bother me at all because I only trim 8 pieces.
Do you feel like you can hyper focus more on that 8 pieces and the whole product's better at the end of the cook?
I feel because I only have to do 8 at home, I do a better job of trimming those 8 because I don't have to worry about trimming all that. So I put myself in a better position right there. Even though I only cook 8, I still thaw just as many. So I just am even more selective on the 8 that I do bring. Also gives me even more selection of skin and all that. So we get to put together 8 pieces that are pretty darn good. Don't really ever have any issues. Allows me to have 2 to taste and dial in, and 6 go in the box.
That makes sense. That's actually pretty good. So, what is your favorite and least favorite competition meat to cook?
I do not have a least favorite as a consistency cook. I love them all. I mean, even chicken. I had a pretty good year in chicken up until just the last, obviously if we take the Royal and the Royal contest and the Jack out, there might only been like 2 or 3 contests all year I didn't get a chicken call. So chicken ran real well this year. I mean, everything, I don't really have a category I don't like. Pork is, I mean, I have like pork has probably made us the most money over the years. Ribs did this year, but I mean, I don't know that I can say one of those is my favorite either. Whatever I'm winning the most at right now is probably my favorite. Ribs right now is my favorite because I just won at the Jack with them. But on the other aspect of it, ribs is probably the category that frustrated me the most this year. Not for the fact of anything other than the fact that I cook the same damn rib every year, and one weekend it wins, the next weekend it gets 18th, and then the next weekend it does good, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. And of course, from an engineering mindset, I cannot accept that. So it's frustrated me, but I have also started to learn to accept it. So we'll see how that goes.
Talking about engineering mindset, do you keep track of how much each piece of meat's won you or through the year, or to be able to gauge?
I look at scoring averages, and it's trending where things are going. And obviously, if I have something that's not working for me, then I'll attack it. And at the beginning of the season, we won 2 contests off of the small meats hitting really hard, but not getting calls in the big meats. I won Smoke in the Spring this spring in Osage City, Kansas, with a chicken and a rib call and no pork and brisket call. That meant I had a golden horseshoe up my ass because I left the door wide open for Joe or anybody of them guys that are badass brisket cooks to come in and take it. And for whatever reason that day, that did not happen. And, and I left there knowing that. So, we went to work on brisket a little bit, turned it around. And then I think 2 of our wins this year came with, top 3 finishes in brisket. So, it was just had to kick myself in the ass thing to get fixed. It wasn't anything that I had to change. It was I wasn't cooking my brisket tender enough. It was my fault. I was getting cold feet and pulling it off too quick, being dumb, and quit doing that.
That's my problem. It's going by a feel, but it's learning what that feel is.
Yeah, and then knowing what it is and actually taking it there and doing it are different things. A lot of people, especially if you ever think you overcooked one, then you get cold feet, and then you got to get yourself out of it. And I don't remember. I did something. I felt I needed to not take my shit so far and got myself that and had to get myself out of it.
Because then you try to overcompensate the next time and pull it off too soon, and then
and you just got to tell yourself not to do any of that and just follow your instincts. You really didn't screw up that bad the time before. You think you did.
So, what is your favorite non-competition meat to cook at home or around the house?
Right now, my favorite thing to cook around the house is not competition meat, is to take those little pork tenderloins, not the big pork loins, the little pork tenderloins, and just cut them into medallions the width of bacon and wrap them in bacon and just grill the damn things with a little bit of man style on them. They seem simple, but I don't know. I love the damn things. They're
Never
simple.
tried that.
What's that?
I've never tried those like that.
Yeah. I don't. Well, we were buying. I don't know. We were in the process of trying to not be so fat and lose some weight. We've been cooking some pork chops and stuff here and there. And I don't know. I just decided, I was like, shit. I bet if we cut some of these in some chops, I bet they'd be tender as fuck. Yeah, they sure were.
You're talking about losing weight. I thought that was a prereq to being a barbecue cook, was to be a little heftier around the middle.
Yeah, a little bit, but as we get older here, I've been a little rough on the body, so it's time to be a little better for ourselves. Yeah, I've tried to be a little better this year about it, and I've been good for the most part. But last couple weeks here, with being on the road with the Royal and the Jack, I can't say that I've done real awesome, but hey, we'll try to get back on it.
So do you have any homemade sauces or rubs or?
I used to. I really haven't played with it a whole lot. It's kind of funny. When I first got barbecue, I actually did not know that most of these rubs and sauces and stuff on the market existed, because we didn't have any stores in my area that had all this stuff. You get to the eastern part of the state, you did, but so like when I got into cooking barbecue at first, I was just Googling and using Barbecue Brethren and shit to find rub recipes and stuff just to play with barbecue. This was before we did competition, but as far as just cooking barbecue at home, yeah, we didn't buy no rubs. We just made it, use Google, find recipes and put them together. So yeah, that's what we used to do. And then obviously as we discovered Smoking Guns Hot and Blues Hog and all the other shit everybody else uses, yes, that's what we use now also. But no, I mean, I still enjoy throwing stuff like that together. There's a family barbecue sauce that we make that's it's the same recipe as the South Dakota pork producer sauce that they serve at the South Dakota State Fair with their pork loin sandwiches, as my family used to cook with them and do all that. So, we have that sauce recipe. It isn't something that we would run in a barbecue contest, but it's really good sauce. And we love it. But yeah, love to play around with that stuff a little bit.
So I'm already going to answer this about, do you teach any barbecue classes? You have one coming up. Is there still any kind of room, or are you sold out already?
Yeah, we have. And I'm going to totally butcher the date on this because I don't have it in front of me. It's what's the second weekend in December. Let me get my calendar up here and actually get some actual dates for everybody here, because I'm horrible at that. December 10th and 11th at American Fire in Lee's Summit. We still have some seats available. I believe we are about 1/3 sold out right now.
Okay.
But yes, we're still, it's coming. And if it does sell out, we may have another one. I'm not sure. Kind of depends on how crazy the winter gets. We'll see, I guess. Hopefully we can just get one to sell out. That would be great. We'll see what happens though.
So here's my next question. It's kind of off the cuff. You use Man Meat Barbecue. They're one of your sponsors, correct?
Yep.
I thought I saw that. Because you're talking about home style. That is probably one of my favorite all-purpose rubs. And I use it on potatoes. I use it on steak. I use it on everything I make. Brisket.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny how our home regimen works at the house here. It's kind of funny. Let me flip the camera around because you can just see how I'm not filling you full of shit. There's my stove over there, and there's a Man Meat Homestyle right next to it right now as I just got done cooking supper. So how it works at our house is when I pre-mix all my rubs in the little Cambro dredge shaker things like a lot of people do. So I have a shaker of everything I need for pretty much every category, or however I want to break it down, compartmentalize it, whatever. But either way, there's a shaker of Homestyle, one of those dredge shakers of Homestyle that comes to a contest, and that cooks a contest. So if there's a double, it gets 2, and that's got extra built into it and whatever else not. But that shaker literally gets refilled out of the one right next to the stove that we cook with all the time. And then when that one gets empty, we go get the case and get another one. So yeah, I mean, that's the rotation. It ain't no bullshit. The same thing next to our stove is what we cook at the contest, because that's what I fill the shaker out of, but yeah, we use all of Aaron's products. The Man Meat Kansas City style and Texas style is pretty much on every category. We take Texas style, we grind it different sizes so we can utilize it different ways. Some of those herbs change and fire different ways when you grind them different ways. So Texas style gets very versatile when you grind it different ways. So does home style. And the crazy thing is, I haven't even really got to touch that a whole lot. Like, the things that I can probably do with home style that I haven't even done with yet is I don't know. There's a lot of ideas I haven't even got to yet with that one. But yeah, Aaron's sauce, we use the Taggy Tennessee, obviously in pork and a little bit on ribs, and sweet and smoky. That's obviously one of our favorite brisket sauces, what we use in competition. And we also have a little bit of sweet and smoky on our chicken too.
So you're like a mad scientist when it comes to rubs, as far as being able to grind them, use them however you want to at the time to what you need to
Yeah,
use them
I'll
for.
use those Cambro dredge shakers because I can put different size hole covers on the top. When I said salt, my salt shaker, I use that, and I have really, really fine holes, so then I can go over the top of something right before, it turns and not over salt because the holes are nice and fine. Yeah, I just depending on how I want to apply that particular seasoning to a piece of meat, is how I'll set it up. This even the granule size. Not a lot of I use a burr grinder versus those coffee grinders that just got a blade spin around, so I can have some better control over the particle size it's grinding to. We obviously don't grind coffee with that after we've run shit through it, but there's one dedicated in the house here to just that, and so I can change particle sizes if I want to.
So when you said you combine your rubs into one shaker for
Yep.
a contest, how did that take some playing around with to get your ratios right? Because like right now I just layer my rubs, so I kind of
Yep.
go by eyesight to get a little bit of a light dusting versus the finishing one. So I'm just trying to figure out how you would get your ratios right from the
What
beginning.
I did when that way, because I used to be the same way. I used to layer, and then I wanted to get more. I wanted to have more consistency of what was going down.
Yep.
So basically, what I did was I started asking myself, like, when you're layering, start to get to a point where you're like, I'm running a light of this and a medium of this and a heavy of this, and I was kind of got to the point where, if it was, I would do, 70-30 splits, 60-40 splits, or if you're going, 3-3-3s, depending on how, if there was, prime example, if your heavy smoking gun's hot and light simmer on dock, something like that, or whatever, you would just, change the ratio, but, most of my stuff anymore is pretty straight up and even, where it's all 50-50 or third or quarters. We don't get too crazy anymore with ratios. We keep it pretty straight up. To the point where, when you're layering, you have zero science of trying to keep it straight. So the instant you go from that to any type of ratio, you're already leaps and bounds ahead of where you were.
And I kind of have the same mindset you do as I'm putting this on. I'm like, I have no one from one contest to the next. I'm going by eyesight to know sometimes it's heavier, sometimes it's lighter, just by the way my hand is shaking this rub on this piece of meat. And every contest is different, and that bothers me. I want to be able to. My end game goal is to be able to go to a contest and hopefully cook the same piece of meat the exact same way every single time, to where when I take a probe to it, it's where I want it to be without almost second guessing it, almost natural.
Yeah. Yeah. I think as much a few years ago, I spent a lot of time trying to do exactly that through the program of just, if I can turn it robotic to where I can repeat it every time, that's what I want. And I think doing that was a benefit. And I think everybody should have some of that mentality in their program. I will say that kind of going forward, I'm not going to do that as much anymore, and it has. I'm kind of leaning towards what I want to. The cook process can ebb and flow more, but the end result needs to stay the same. And what I'm trying to say is I'm willing to make changes and I'm willing to make pivots throughout my cook to keep it on the path that I want it on and the tempo that I want it on. If I feel that I need to speed it up or slow it down, I will do what I need to do that.
Yep.
So I am not as robotic as I used to be on process, because I want to be able to be more fluid on what I can do throughout my cook.
And that makes sense. I'm still trying to get to the beginning stages to where I feel like if I can nail that, then I will start going in the direction where you're going, where be able to adjust on the fly here and there. But this is my first year of cooking,
Yeah.
so I'm trying to get the basics basically down.
And probably some of me reviewing this in my mind and stating what I just said is probably in the fact that, just like you, there was a learning process through that of me trying to eliminate all those variables. There was obviously going through that process, I a bunch about my very own cook program, right? So I can't sit here and say you shouldn't do that because it obviously benefited me. It's just I'm at a position where I don't think it benefits me right now, but I also believe that doing that got me where I'm at now with that also. So, there is something to be said about doing that for sure when developing your processes for sure.
No, I definitely agree. That's like I said, I like your being able to adjust on the fly. That's, like I said, down the road, hopefully where I want to be able to get to, because every good barbecue cook can adjust on the fly. That's
Yeah.
Like I forgot who it was. It said, I think it was Tim Shear with Shake and Bake, said that you can win or lose a contest in the last 10 minutes of finishing in your box.
Yeah, especially right now. I mean, I think like 2019 and prior to COVID, the different judge dynamic and the team dynamic now, because it's been a hot minute now since 2019. You know, for the longest time, people always said that tenderness wins contests, and that tender barbecue and you'll win. And 2019 before that was 100% it. As long as you sprinkled smoking guns hot, simmer on docks, and dunked it in freaking Blues Hog and cooked it tender, it probably won. Or did you get enough to do very well? Fast forward now, there's so many people that can do that. It takes something more. So now it's finishing. And finishing doesn't mean shit if you don't get the first, but now you have to nail tenderness and finish better. And I feel right now that I am nailing tenderness and I'm finishing pretty damn good. And I think a lot of the what separates when you get contests full of good teams and and the judging is not as stupid as it can be some days, and you can kind of go head to head with some guys between categories like we kind of did some this spring. You can start to pick apart who may be making the right decisions that day in the finishing of the end product. I love it when it's that way, because then it's a game of the minds between guys, and that's what we live for doing this. If I could cook heads up against Brad and Joe and Darren and all them guys every contest, you damn right I would, because we all want that. We all want to cook heads up against each other and see who the better cook is that day, and get bust each other's balls when we're done. It's just part of it. But I think that's what we all live for and what we want, barbecue.
My biggest problem is not overthinking when I'm cooking it. And mainly when I'm boxing it, is trying not to overthink and just do my thing. Let's go.
The one thing about overthinking is a person just kind of, I don't know, it seems like when I hate to say this, but when a person's rushed a little bit, the overthinking doesn't happen as much. And being rushed isn't the right attitude to have either, because that's gotten me in enough trouble too. So, I hear what you're saying. It seems like lately, I don't know, it feels like I'm not really having that problem on the overthinking, because I'm in this mindset that even though I'm giving myself enough time during turn-ins, I'm wanting to make sure that I'm utilizing all of my time that I have to make sure that I'm not leaving any points on the cutting board. So it's really not necessarily an overthinking under the fact that I'm looking at the clock and going, okay, I still have 5 more minutes that I could maybe try to get something a little bit more out of this, and I don't necessarily know that's going to be overthinking, because every single cook and their trailer is probably doing that, even if they have it a knock out of the park category, because at that point you're going to play offense and you're just going to try to get it that much better. And that's exactly what I did with the ribs at the Jack. They were just that fucking good, and I even had time left over, and we just worked on them a little bit better. Just trying to do every little thing we could to get the appearance that much a little better and everything. So, it's a lot of that is realizing at a contest when they're at a category, and where you're at texture wise before you do any finishing. You need to ask yourself what you're going to do to put points on the board. Do you have a product good enough to actually go after a bunch of points, or are you trying to salvage something what you got? 180s are days you get to play offense, where you have just great shit, and you can play, you can search, you can try.
So here's one I'm not sure how to go with this. If there's one thing about competition barbecue or KCBS that you would like to change, what would it be?
Yeah, just probably, as I've kind of been touching on, kind of on the judging, and we all have, it's, obviously pretty popular to complain about judging, but like, I'm not going to sit here and complain about it. I'm going to actually tell you kind of what I want out of it. And it's, the fact of, I think we all want good food judged good and bad food judged bad. When we complain about judges, well, the opposite of just having angel judges doesn't work either. We don't need our scores moving up higher in KCBS either. I think at the end of the day, I think what we want is judges that take the continuing education program as serious as we cooks take our continuing education, and that good judges should be rewarded just like good cooks should be rewarded, and bad cooks should get what bad judges get, if that makes any sense. I think we have, there's a point where we're coming up on in KCBS right now where we can make some changes in the fact that, there's a new generation that's going to be coming into the judging tent as some of our older judges retire, and time continues to go on. And we, as not just an organization at KCBS, but competition and barbecue as a whole, needs to ask ourselves how we appeal to the next generation of judges. Because they have different ideas than what the prior generation has, what they feel, what would be of a proposition to go and judge a contest, what they think is something that they want is going to be different than, what we're used to. But I do think that the crowd exists out there. And if you look at, like, prime example, Omaha has, quite the food scene, and they have, quite the foodie scene. And a lot of those people are around barbecue quite a bit. And you can see in that generation and that age group that there is a desire and a love for, food, competition, things of this nature. And we need to be reaching out. We need to be speaking to those people. We need to be promoting ourselves to those people, because there's a place for them in KCBS. And I think if we do that right, we'll have something that'll work well for us, hopefully.
Yeah, that's the thing that gets me, though, is like, even if you get to a judge and they're an outlier, nothing is said or done to them, or there really is no negative repercussions.
Yeah.
And I've had some that will show up and they will not give out. It's like they have a vendetta against the cooks and will not give out a score.
Yeah.
And it's like they just ruined the cook's day there.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I don't really understand why this is an issue at all. I mean, I would always thought that if a person's coming to judge a contest, that it's be something you're going to do because it's fun. So if you're doing it, you should be happy, unless somebody gives you something that's fucking hot or horrible. But let's be honest, most of the stuff that we're turning in when a judge is complaining about it, it's not that it sucks. It's just they're nitpicking it, right? It's not like we're serving inedible food here by any means. There's just there seems to be a lot of times a difference of opinion on what is good barbecue or not. And a lot of times that difference of opinion is getting brought up by who's just being a giant pain in the ass at the table and doesn't really have to make an issue out of something. And that comes from a generation that's getting out of this. I mean, it isn't the new generation doing that. And no offense to anybody, but that's the reality of it. But, you know, I don't think the newer generation judges are going to be doing that, because I don't think they're going to be coming at all if they're not there to have fun. You know, the younger generation have too much going on in their lives to be spending time burning people at barbecue contests. They're only going to become judged at barbecue contests with something that they have fun doing and enjoy, or they're just going to go do something else. I don't know why the current generation figure that out, but I wish they would.
No, that makes complete sense, because
Yeah.
I even see that at the Royal. I mean, I was splitting hairs on some of those entries. Like, I even told somebody, I said, if this isn't the best barbecue I've ever had in my life, I don't know what is. I mean, it's
Yeah. I mean, especially at the Royal Invitational. I mean, let's be honest. There aren't too many cooks there that aren't turning out some damn good food. I mean, they had to win a contest.
exactly.
I mean, yeah, can you get lucky and win one and go to the Royal? Yeah, but that doesn't happen very often. The people that win and then spend the time to go to the Royal are not people that just get lucky, and they're good cooks, you know. So you go to a KCBS Invitational, a Jack Daniels Invitational, some of these big invitationals. I mean, having 700s down to the 40 or 50 places would not be out of line, because it's that good. And then if, you know, yeah, I get it. I'm not sitting here saying it's a participation mentality, but I'm sitting here telling you, if you're at an invitational and you're sitting in 40-something place with a 90-something, there wasn't anything else you could do. You know, it is what it is. Move on, you know.
There were so many people that were analyzing scores from the Royal, and that's pretty much what almost 90% of the people that cooked the Royal long enough said.
Yep.
It's a crapshoot. I mean, don't take most of your scores personal from the Royal to do any kind of knee-jerk reactions.
Yeah, I mean, the other part of my life that I've been involved in before barbecue was motorsports, and I got a history in sprint car racing, both from being involved in it myself and also friends and following a lot of it. And it's not just barbecue that where it's not your year, or that it goes like that. I have seen many drivers that were top candidates to win the Knoxville Nationals junk a sprint car on the first lap, turn one in Knoxville. So shit happens in every form of competitive activity, including barbecue. If it ain't your year this year, it probably might be next year. Maybe not, but hey, move on.
Yep. So what does the future look like for your team and you?
Well,
Not done at all.
we're just going to try to keep our head above water through inflation here and hope we can keep a cooking and do what we do. I don't really know that we're going to change course a whole lot. I love doing what I do. I'm just try to cook about 20 to 25 a year throughout the central U.S. If we can, try to target the bigger shows, the bigger money shows for sure. Some of the ones that we cook that are a little lighter on the payouts might have to disappear next year with the high costs, and that sucks. But business is business, and we gotta. I understand competition barbecue is a losing battle, but I can't leave my house for a check I know don't even pay the bills. So I'm not doing that anymore.
That's like Brian wanted me to ask, what'd you do with the money from the Royal? And I said he probably tried to break even on competition barbecue. That's about
You know what I do with my money from the Royal? I pay some fucking bills.
Yep. That's what I told my wife, and I was talking with Brad Leininger on this, and he was talking about how much he does do a contest. And I said, shh, I only told my wife about half of what it costs, because
yeah,
I tried one time to keep track of just the odds and ends, miscellaneous stuff. And I cook backyard. I don't even cook full-blown Master Series. And it's still – because, yes, you don't have brisket and you don't have pork, but you still have a lot of the same costs to get to the contest.
Oh, absolutely. It's even I've heard a lot of people tell me that SCA is a lot cheaper, and then you watch $1,000 rigs to an SCA contest. I was like, Really? Your diesel still costs just as much as mine.
I'm hoping eventually this inflation's going to go down and maybe we can, because
Yeah.
it's hurting the barbecue world this summer too. There's been a lot of contests barely getting 25 teams.
100%. You've pretty much seen it by the time we got to mid to late summer. There was a bunch of teams put the brakes on it to save to go to the American Royal, and you can kind of see it right now that after American Royal is really hurting. So hopefully some things change, or it'll be really hard next year, and we don't want that. I know there's a lot of organizers that have been struggling to get teams, and it's been tough across the board. And I don't know how much more all of it can handle it before some of it comes crashing down more, and I hope we don't have to go down that road.
Yeah, I qualified for the invitational for next year, hoping it's not in Alabama. And I told the wife, I said, we may have to scale back a contest or two just to be able to do that one. But
yeah, I don't know what the long-term answer with that is. I think about everywhere that the KCBS moves, that invitational is going to make somebody mad. I can't say that I like where it is this year, but then again, there's going to be some teams that will like where it is. The one thing that I think the KCBS needs to understand is when you put it in one part of the country, whether it's the east side, the west side, but if you put it in one extreme or the other, you alienate 2/3 of the country.
Yep.
It's one thing to get for me to go to Alabama, try to be a Nevada or a California team and go to Alabama.
Well, that's what I got a buddy from Minnesota, and I said at least if it was in Kansas City or Missouri or Kansas, both teams would go halfway. This way, one team is going all the way down to Alabama from Minnesota.
Yeah. And I get it. I'm sure both coasts don't like it that a bunch of them are in the central part of the country. But at the end of the day, it is the most and the easiest way to do it. And that, I don't know, it's just tougher to do that. But it just doesn't work out for us this year. Maybe next year it'll be different dynamics and we'll get to go back to the KCBS Invitational. We sure had a blast at Shawnee last year. I loved it down there. Even with a 14-hour drive from my house, it was a blast at there. Maybe we'll get it back there. The year before when it was in Mayetta, it was also a lot of fun there. Mayetta didn't have their contest at all this year. I don't know what their future holds with competition barbecue. That's another one that kind of looks like COVID maybe got. I sure hope it come back because I had a blast cooking in Mayetta. Love that casino and that little campground area that they got back there. So who knows? Hopefully we'll see some positive with the Invitational in the future, get it closer back into our region maybe.
I wish they'd bring it back to Kemper since it has less teams than the Royal. I think that I'd love to have it in the old West Bottom.
That is certainly a viable conversation to have, and another conversation to have on that is it could be at Kemper and it doesn't have to be in November, ACBS can put their Invitational wherever they want. Daytona starts out at the beginning of the year in NASCAR. Maybe we kick off a barbecue season and put a major at the beginning here somewhere.
I think that would be because KCBS kind of got its humble roots kind of around the West Bottoms area and all that too. So I think that would be the location to have it at. But what do I know?
It certainly is a damn good idea. That is for certain. I would certainly love to pose, with just like you. I'd love to, that's an idea. I'd love to have throw it out there for them to, either if we're gonna get told, if we're gonna get flipped off, at least give me a good viable reason why we can't do it. And maybe there is one, but hey, let's it's certainly one that can be talked about for sure.
Yep. Well, does anybody have any other questions for him before I let you go? Sorry it took so much time up. I get started talking barbecue and I enjoy it. Well, looks like everybody's quiet. Guess everybody's sleeping.
Might not be anybody left. We probably went too long. We probably all went.
No, you're good. A lot of people watch it afterwards too. Once it's recorded. Well, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity coming out here. I had a lot of fun chatting tonight, and I want to give a shout out to a couple of my sponsors after I cooked the jack and got a first place rib. I need to thank Compart Family Farms. I need to thank Duffy Farms and Ray Hybrids. I need to thank Barbecue Heaven and Fireplace Professionals for their help. Man Meat Barbecue, JDQ, and Joe Bob's Barbecue, Smoky Okies Food Products for all the support and help they've done this year, along with Heath Riles Barbecue. Heath's pork injection has been magical for us this year. And we thank him for all his support and look forward to working with everybody in the future.
Sounds great. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
All right. See you later.
Yep.